Hi, welcome to the July 27th CCAPS meeting. I'm Janet Guo. I'm your host today, and together with me is Ken Owens and Matt Farina. They're going to be our co-host. So we don't have any discussion topic on the agenda other than the box scrub. Does anyone want to discuss anything? If not, we're going to just do the box scrub. Okay, I think that means that we are going to do box scrub. Ken, do you want to present?
Give me 1 second and yep. Okay. Zoom, share screen. Okay, can people see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so this first one is to update the volume claims template. I'll assign myself. There's ongoing work on a CAP for updating persistent volume claims of stateful set between SIG apps and SIG storage. So I can link this to that work and hopefully just close it. So this one, actually, I wasn't able to figure out precisely what they were looking for from us. Like, it seems like this is a scheduling issue potentially. And yeah, like there's not enough information really for me to reproduce. So, I mean, I'm willing to take it, but I don't really know what to do with it.
That seems like an API server failure, isn't it? There is the post operation against pod could not be completed at this time.
Right. So I mean, maybe the schedule, like, yeah. To me, I'm not sure that there's a bug. It looks like he created a pod and it failed to schedule, but I didn't look at it too in depth. And there's not like a whole bunch of logging from the API machinery to like do an in-depth kind of review of what's going on.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole issue, but there seems to be an event that failed to create the pod. So it probably didn't even get created. Yeah, but that should be retried.
So I don't think we can do this. I don't think it makes sense necessarily. Like, I don't even know what it would look like because deployments kind of have, I mean, they create replica sets, you know, they create fungible pods. And it seems like what this person wants is to add volume claims template to deployment. Anybody, Janet, do you want to take this one?
Yeah.
I don't see, like, I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but I don't clearly see how to do it. Like, if they wanted to offer a KEP for it, because I mean, it would be, yeah.
That would imply multiple writers, right? Because for deployments, there's always
There's no
more
way.
than.
Well, you can, I mean, depending on the max surge and min available configuration, right? You could make it so that to some degree of probability, you would never share it. But I mean, like if you did it with read write many, that would make sense for sure.
Yeah, because even with Recreate, you can't have just one pod. Only Stateful Set has that guarantee.
Yeah, you can't guarantee it, right? Like you could, the volumes would create some type of a fencing mechanism, which may or may not work or give you the intended or desired result, right? Like this isn't, just not super, it sounds nice in theory, but well, as an ask, but like, and it's not deeply thought through.
Yeah,
This one,
because
go ahead.
Stateful Set have identity, which makes it easier, but with deployment, even with Recreate, you just delete the old pod and immediately start a new one.
So it's going to look, yeah, it would look hairy in terms of any type of implementation. So yeah, my gut would say no, but I don't want to be unfriendly. So like if the person really wanted to think deeply about it and offer a KEP for how it would work, we could take a look, but just out of kind of like trivially, it's not something that I would understand how we could do easily, or how we could do in a way that would be cogent and good for users. More to the point.
Yeah, but sure, let's leave it open for discussion.
So this, do we just want to ask this person to go to Slack? Because this isn't a bug per se. This is like a support issue. Or do we have a preference on where we would direct them?
They can either go to Slack or Stack Overflow.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but you can, go ahead.
Looks like Jordan already posted the correct comment there. Like, yeah, we want to propagate everything from the template, but not the daemon set deployment itself, because you want to select those separately.
Correct. And like that yeah, this is basically works as intended. Do we want to leave it open for continued comment or close?
Oh, I would maybe say close, because Jordan commented 20 days and there was no response to it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Huh. Okay, this is basically tuning. Morton, are you on? I guess not. Let's see what the person wants to contribute. Ooh. Huh. We've let this sit for a while. But I'd actually like to get Morton to take a look. He's been the one who's been the most in touch with PDBs. Recently. Old job of con job, produce, don't clean. This looks like works as intended. So Janet, with the, what happened with the job garbage collection?
It's still alpha.
Okay. So I mean, like based on the current documentation for what we do today, this is works as intended because we don't clean the jobs up, and that's by design. With the garbage collection for jobs, it actually sounds like it would probably address this person's issue a bit more. But if they're using a cron job as well, cron job does have a max history, so it should clean those jobs up eventually anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the only thing I could think is for this person, we could at least link them to the job controller, the garbage collector for jobs work, and say that that's an alpha feature that's coming, and then maybe tell them give them more documentation pertaining to how cron job and job actually work, because I think they're probably a bit confused about what the expected behavior of the system is.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're not asking for a feature. They're just confused by this behavior.
All right. Anybody want to take this to follow up?
I can follow up.
Row. What is this? Demon said.
Yeah, I will have a look. I was messing with this lately, so I should know how it works.
Okay. Is it Tomas?
Yep, it's TNO, and then you should see
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
This one we're already talking about. Uh-oh. I kind of doubt this, but does look like he has an assignee already too. Oh, we have an assignee for it. Does anybody want to take a deeper look at this? Because this looks like sort of a known issue. Yeah, has an assignment. For right now, I guess leave this one be. So this one, I'm not sure if this is us or SIG CLI.
What's the bug there actually? Like
So
those
it's like
selectors are immutable, right?
right, but they're so from the API machinery perspective, the correct result seems to be returned. And it's implemented in the REST controller endpoint for apps v1, but it looks like when they're using kubectl to apply it, it does an error out, right? So, I mean, that seems like an error inside of the CLI because it definitely works if you hit the endpoint directly at the API machinery level, and inside of the controller, there's really nothing like, that's actually looked at there, right? Like we block this in the API machinery. So I would actually move this to CLI because it really looks like it's something to do with apply. And if Frederique or Federico has looked at it, yeah, I'm tempted to move it to, or at least add.
I think this is CLI as well.
Yeah.
If API machinery says no, like there's nobody else on the path except
Right.
kubectl.
Yeah, this is kubectl should catch this. It's an error where the match labels change, right? And that's immutable, and they change them, and so an error should be thrown. And the API does this. Other tools will throw an error correctly. So kubectl just has an issue.
I wonder if their deployment have the last applied annotation or not. Maybe it's something to do with that.
I think kubectl computes actually patches before sending it over, so it may be a bug there. Maciej would know, but he's on PTO today.
Do they do a three? Well, no. Okay. Yeah, but it's kubectl. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could add us back on if we want to support or if we're interested in taking a further look. It's just like the code doesn't even exist in the controllers. It exists inside of the API machinery, and the code inside of the API machinery clearly functions and has for many releases now. So, I mean, by process of elimination, it's definitely an apply bug. It's not server side apply. It's definitely client side apply. So it's got to be kubectl. I don't what? Oh, I think that's no. So
That would be a lot of writes to etcd.
yeah, and I don't like, but at a higher level, like so conceptually to me, a pod ready condition is about the status of the pod. You have node ready conditions in order to give you the status of the node, right? If a node's not ready, you could get, basically the pod might not even schedule there. There are a lot of different things that can happen. Closely correlating the status conditions of the pod with the status conditions of the node in all cases doesn't seem desirable to me. Like I don't see what problem it actually solves.
Well, doesn't it tightly couple pods to nodes, which is just not true.
I mean, like, I guess the use case that the guy is going for, or the person is going for, is in the event you've already scheduled the pod and then the node becomes not ready, I guess it would mark all the pods not ready. But like, that just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, if a pod isn't ready, if a node isn't ready, like there should be an action happening, right? So
Right.
that's how we would recover from it. And those statuses are distinct.
They are.
Node ready is kubelet state. Like if kubelet can't connect to the API, it transitions to node ready. And as you said, like pod readiness means you can hit the ready endpoint.
Right. I mean, I can see kind of a point that if the node isn't ready, the pod is not ready to receive traffic. But we already have a control mechanism for this.
That may actually not be true. Like your node may not be ready, but your pod can still be ready.
Still hit traffic. That's true. There are a bunch of different things. That's a good point.
Like if a kubelet credentials expire, I think that's the case. Like you will transition to not ready because the node is not reporting back, but the pod will still be running.
Do we want to leave it open or like just? Yeah. I'm. You know, I can assign myself and follow up see if the person wants to have more of a discourse on it. I don't want to be like standoffish and just like close the issue and be like, yeah. So, I mean, if he requires a little bit more of an explanation, or they require a little bit more of an explanation, I think that's fair. EFK. What is this?
SIG EFK.
I actually had to look up what EFK meant.
What is it? Is it our Elastic product? Elastic File Stash Kibana?
It's Elastic Fluent Kibana.
Okay.
At least that's what I think they mean by it, which if it's not running right, that's a support question.
Yeah, it definitely is. But like, I can't tell them to go to Kubernetes community Slack because that's probably not the right place.
But there really isn't a right place, is there?
I mean, I would contact Elastic.
Well, they say they are deploying it from Google Marketplace, so Probably the
And
product
Google Marketplace
goes there.
problem.
Yeah.
And surely they disavow all responsibility, right?
It depends on which solution it is. So a lot of them are partner supported. Usually, no. Usually, they're actually quite helpful. I'll give them that. Like there are people on the marketplace team that were my colleagues at Google that I could maybe point them to, but I'm not going to do that on GitHub. So if they're GCP customers, they'll be able to reach out to a TAM and get help. And if they're deploying something that is an open source solution that's sponsored by Elastic would probably be the right people to talk to. But certainly not us. I can't do a thing for them, and I don't unless anyone else thinks they can. That's interesting. What is this? Can't be done, huh? What did they do? I'll take a look at this. Unless somebody like, who else is on today?
You know what? I'll take that one.
Who?
Mike Spreitzer.
Okay.
I haven't been around here before, but I have some interest developing in this SIG.
What's your GitHub?
MIKESPR. Second one.
Okay. You'll take a look. I'll keep an eye on it as well if you need support.
Thank you.
Should replica set controller clean up failed pods? I think in this case, basically they're dependent on pod GC, right? I mean, there's not much we can do for them there.
Yeah, and those are intentionally left there.
Right.
Because you want to know that pod was evicted, and you want to find out the reason it was evicted, and it's noted on the pod API object. So
Right.
if we keep deleting them, like nobody will know why the pod was evicted and that it was evicted.
Right, and then I mean that's by design. But like even if you wanted a feature where the replica set tried to do reclamation of failed pods after some threshold, I don't think you could. Like pod GC just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, there is just a generic limit for the cluster.
Yeah.
But you want to see those, like.
Yeah, I want to see them for sure. Like.
That's when admins come to like something is broken.
Do you want to follow up with them, Tomas?
Yeah, I can follow up with them.
We might want to find what their use case is, like even why they think they want it.
I mean, so like with a large number of evictions across the entire cluster, I could see how you could enter a selector to look for things and it could get annoying. And you might want those to go away faster than they actually are. But
Like that could be a timeout that we just delete those, right? I will give it some thought and come back.
ooh. Oh. Oh.
Randomized cron jobs.
You know, we just added something to the API server to do concurrency limiting. I wonder if the code for the concurrency limiting could be used also here.
But that would limit the whole controller, right? Like you couldn't limit by
Well, there's
another
a concept of a queue set that could be applied to whatever granularity you want.
How does the tenancy work across different people doing different cron jobs? Does it work that way?
Was that a question about the new API server feature?
Yeah, the API server. Will it let different cron jobs handle this differently across different tenants?
So it's based on configuration. There's a concept of flows of requests, and the administrators configure flow schemas that categorize requests into flows. And when in a given flow schema, it's a collection of flows that have an identifier. You get to configure whether the identifier includes the username or the target object namespace to contribute to the flow identifier. So there's the ability to discriminate that way and get multi-tenancy that way.
So, I mean, this is kind of not. It seems like what they actually want is like cron jobs to start and then sort of take a lock, right? So that they can only run at a certain, like if I run 3 or 4 of these and they start immediately concurrently, only one or some number, like more like a semaphore, right? Like I have a semaphore that lets only a certain number of cron jobs through at the same time, even though I've launched them all at the same time. And their other kind of proposal is to, I think when they say randomization, what they really want to do is introduce jitter to the start time in order to say like, okay, well, everyone starts at every 10 minutes, but with this randomized jitter so that I spread you out by a couple of seconds. And the semaphore thing you can actually do with the API server. Like there are examples of how you can use the API machinery to set up effectively a lock for leader election. And the same thing can be done to make sure that only one cron job is actually going to start executing its code simultaneously. So you could use that for serialization. I mean, I'll defer. Is my check on? No? Okay.
Let me make sure I have the terminology right. Is the concept that a cron job has a collection of tasks, and the problem here is they want to run only a couple of tasks at a time?
Cron job so a cron job is a controller that creates jobs periodically at a specified time, right?
Okay.
And it's effectively a deadline scheduler. So at this time, it's going to start scheduling your job. What this person is saying is like they periodically have a bunch of cron jobs that they're launching across their cluster simultaneously in order to sync repositories that all run, let's say, every 10 minutes. What they want to do is start them all at 10 minutes, but when the jobs launch, have some mechanism to stagger execution so that they don't all actually run simultaneously. So trivially, you could set the cron schedule slightly differently, but because it's a deadline scheduler, you could still get large amounts of overlap. So like thinking about this from a concurrency problem, the way I would solve it is use some type of a locking mechanism or a semaphore-like mechanism to ensure that only a fixed number of jobs can run simultaneously in the cluster, like basically set up a throttle. And you could do that using the API machinery to set up a lock. Like that's the leader election pattern for the API server is like a thing. People do this.
Even in the dumb sense from the app point of view, if the app wants to look for something like that, you could use a config map or secret to store your semaphore in, right?
Yeah.
Just do an init container.
Yeah, I think
this is actually something that I built. Yeah, we in Cube Apps we do this thing where we create a cron job for each Helm repository that you add, and I believe we set it to be the same schedule, but really we should just make that schedule configurable.
What's Majek's GitHub handle again?
Saltish.
Saltish, that's right.
Yeah, but I think any feature is gonna go only after we have rewritten the cron jobs, right? So that's, I think my chase out at least for 2 weeks. So
this isn't going to happen today anyway. It's not like we could actually. Yeah. The amount of work to implement something that would solve this problem and that was natively inside of cron job is so high that it'll be a while. But I really want to get Majek's thoughts on this.
Hey guys, I'm Alay. I was working with Majek since past 2 to 3 weeks on reworking cron job controller to the Informer cap.
Yeah, you're the guy who's taking it to GA.
Hopefully it works out. So I had a few questions regarding this feature. So the way I know cron job works right now is that we have like a deadline after which the cron job will list all the jobs it has started or it is supposed to start. And then if it is not past the deadline, it will start those jobs, right? I'm not able to figure out right off the bat how the jitter period and the deadline would work with one another in a coherent manner, because one makes it hard for the other in terms of engineering to achieve, right?
Right. I would say that if you did this, it would probably reduce the accuracy of the mechanism in general.
Yeah, that would likely need to be optional, but I think that's an issue we have to solve after the rewrite.
But Ale, do you want to leave? Do you want to an assign on this as well and leave some feedback too?
Yeah, I got to say, this, if you want this done accurately, this sounds a lot like the queuing mechanism we added in the API server. I don't have a quick answer now, but I think we need to think about whether there's something common that could be broken out or something here.
Okay.
Yeah. Ken, with regards to the previous question, I would leave it with Majek for now. And if, I mean, I'll keep it in the back of my mind as I work on the new controller. And if something pops up, I'll add a comment there and then take it forward, if that helps.
Sure. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that if you wanted to leave your feedback that, you know, there was like a hook that got left, but as long as you're comfortable with it, it's fine.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, can you CC me on that? I'd like to keep track of this one too.
Sure.
And who was the previous speaker doing the rewrite?
Alay Patel. My GitHub handle is ALAYPATL07.
All right, thank you. Yeah, are you familiar with the API priority and fairness we added in the API server?
Yes, the
Okay.
fairness and priority feature.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I think like we have this on all the workload controllers, right? We create a lot of pods sometimes, so this may want a generic answer and not just for current jobs if we decide to do something about it.
Yes, I agree.
And the API limiting may just do the job. I just don't know.
Yes, that's the first question is does it already do the job or can it be slightly adapted to make it do this job directly?
Wait, okay, I think MyJet's already assigned this. Yeah. This is already working. That's a no. Assigned. Okay, that's interesting. All right, well, that's clear. I'm just gonna assign them. This isn't a bad idea. MyJet already asked to be. Huh. I've never seen this issue. I delete deployments all the time.
Like they have owner references, that's fairly unlikely. Just
Yeah. I'm gonna leave this one alone. If it pops back up or it gets further attention, we'll go back to it. But I'm fine. I think we can let it go stale if nobody else sees it. I would assume that if deployment was not deleting pods at a global scale, this would have gotten a lot more attention by now.
Was there a wait flag in 117? I'm just thinking what's the default propagation in 115? Do we even support 115?
I mean, technically
if there
no.
is,
Technically no, but if that was really broken, even if it was a 115, I think I would go back and take a look. Just to see if that code still exists in the current supported version. So if we're 119, technically we only go back to what, 117, right?
Yeah.
So
Probably.
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's a job for deployments, right? Like that's more for the scheduler or.
So So,
No, I think it's deployment because the scheduler isn't choosing who to kill.
right, the deployment selects the victim when you do a scale down, but I still don't understand what this would look like. Like, okay, so if you scale across two AZs, right? What this person is saying, like, you have two pods in one AZ, and then you have one pod and then another. And then when you select the victim that's in the separate AZ. What feature could we implement that would make that better? You know, like if you want better availability, go with 4, right? I mean, you could still get in a scenario where you did take down both, but it's more unlikely. Like deployment is, I don't want to use that. Deployment is for a large number of fungible pods. I just don't know if we could do something reasonable with respecting affinity predicts when selecting victims. And it would really be inside of replica set, not deployment.
Well, is there an existing solution already? Like there is the scheduler, right? So that is supposed to rebalance the pods. So why do it in a particular workload when you can do it for all of them?
That's a fair point too.
Wait a minute, does the scheduler rebalance pods across zones?
It's the scheduler.
Sorry, what?
It starts with DE.
The
Oh, C scheduler.
Yeah, sorry. So if you wire that should rebalance the pods, right? But a particular workload looking at scheduled predicates, that doesn't seem generic to me.
I mean, that's the major concern if we tried to do anything with it. Like, not only does it wouldn't just be a particular workload. We'd have to do something across the entire workload's API surface. And then moreover, anyone writing a custom controller would have to be encouraged to do the same in order to be consistent, right? Like basically we'd be taking the position that workload controllers, be they custom or built in, should be scheduler predicate aware, which is the opposite of the position that kind of was taken at very, very early on in the project when it was like scheduling is the domain of the scheduler and the workload controllers are really about replication.
So could we, it still seems a little bit bad to say, you know, we're going to have replica set kill the wrong guy and just scheduler fix it up. Could we instead have a way of having replica set, you know, delegate or defer to the scheduler to pick the one to kill?
Was there a cap that was proposing to saying the cost of deletion and marking it? I think it was discussed a few meetings back.
I mean, yeah, but if you're doing something like that, would also require kind of reworking the interface between the scheduler and the controllers, right? Like right now, well,
I don't know if it's so
Right
much
now,
reworking an existing one, it's adding a new one, right? Because the scheduler doesn't have weight to even ask the question now.
well, yeah, but the way it would work is, like Thomas said, if you, so the workloads controllers create and delete pods, right? In terms of balancing those pods across capacity, that's not what the workload controllers do. The scheduler's job is to, and the descheduler, but SIG scheduling is responsible for balancing capacity, like your workloads across your actual capacity. The benefit to that from a community standpoint is that like when it's done consistently in the scheduler and descheduler, it works for anybody who wants to write a controller that basically is a generating controller that generates pods, right? If you
Clearly.
start,
That's what I'm suggesting, is delegating the decision of which one to kill to that same body of code.
yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but, and like Thomas said, I think there was a KEP that actually suggested doing that.
Yeah, I think there is a SIG scheduling proposal, or is about to be. I can ask about it.
All right.
I think a colleague of mine was interested in it.
All right. I'll assign to you, Thomas, and you can follow up. And
Yeah.
after deleting PVC and pod. I'll take it.
Just a quick time check reminder. It is 3 minutes till the end of the meeting.
Yeah, okay. We can, so we got through a bunch of issues today. We'll, I think, start with probably PRs next time, and try to be more, we will try to actually make sure we dedicate the time to do our scrub on a weekly basis, because we've missed the past 2 meetings and not actually gotten it done. Not that that was a bad thing. I mean, we did have other important matters to discuss, particularly for 2 caps and a proposal. So, but
Can I ask a quick question?
sure.
So I'm developing a need to have something that's like a daemon set, but instead of a pod per node, it's a pod per some other sort of object. Is this something other people have worked on or considered?
I'm not aware of any existing work that forks daemon set to create a pod per object where that object is not a node. Janet, you?
No.
All right, thank you.
But
It seems like a kind of generic idea. I'm thinking I'll offer it upstream, since it is pretty generic.
so upstream in the sense is you'd do a CRD and
Well, I mean, I'd offer it here to Kubernetes. I mean, I'm going to develop it first in a proprietary setting, but I'm thinking it's a generic idea. So I would suggest, I'm imagining I'd make a cap for putting into apps.
What's the use case you have? I haven't heard about it either.
Okay. Yeah, the use case is actually, it's kind of like Node, but, you know, we're making a control plane for things that run on machines that are not members of the cluster. So we have our own kind of objects that represent these machines. And so we need pods per our own kind of object. And they don't even run on those other machines. They run on in the cluster, but they're kind of about managing these other machines.
So that would be a CRD just syncing a number of the machines and
Well, you're saying
creating
CRD,
some.
that's a little bit more specific than I was thinking. I mean, we're not using CRDs here.
how are you doing it then?
Maybe I'm a little confused on terminology, but it is my understanding we have in Kubernetes 2 ways of defining custom resources. There's the original way, and then there's the way that's known as CRD, which was an evolution of, what was it, the other one, the earlier one. Anyway, so you know, the
TPR.
original, yeah,
Or
that's right,
You're talking
TPR.
about aggregated API servers.
Right, yeah, that's the original way, is you define with code in the server.
The original way is third-party resources. Then both aggregated API servers and custom resource definitions evolved at the same time. Kind of the community preferred, what people have been pushed to is to use CRDs, and CRDs are kind of like the thing that SIG architecture is really encouraging in terms of how you do custom extensions to the API machinery. There are some use cases that you can only use an aggregated API server for. And they're kind
Okay,
of typical.
sorry, we're rat holing on that detail. That wasn't the main point. The main point was the new function, regardless of how we define the types. So I just wanted to check if, you know, what thoughts were. So I think I've gotten an answer. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Thanks everyone for coming. See you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.